Hello guys, my name is Lars Stender. I'm a writer, I live in Denmark, and I specialize in science fiction fantasy literature. Um, for tonight I'll be reading from my fantasy book, Mandigo and the Hellhounds. And it's about a young guy who becomes an apprentice for a magician. If you want to know more about my books, you are very welcome to visit my website, www.cimarron.net, and there's a lot of stuff going on there about my new fantasy novel as well. But tonight I'll be reading from Mandigo, and it'll be chapter 7. The other chapters, including the prologue, you can find on YouTube, among other things. There's a link to the Solus, and also on my Facebook profiles. Mandigo and the Hellhounds, Chapter 7. Greta slowly stirred the pot with boiling water as she mumbled words in a long-forgotten language. Every now and then she threw some herbs or other items into the pot. Every time she did that, the steam from the pot would momentarily change colors and emit an aroma that was at times delicious, but just as often so pungent and sharp that it would make your eyes water. Mandigo sat on the bed and held the sleeping Bellatrix as he watched it with big eyes and hardly dared to breathe. He had never seen Greta practice witchcraft before in that way, and it was both terrifyingly scary and exciting at the same time. He had always known that Greta was talented, and that she possessed great mysterious powers. Powers, he felt, that he himself had begun to get a certain insight into within the past 4 years. But with the things that he had witnessed and experienced this day, first the Sherlock's attack and Greta's protective whirlwind, and then his own unexpected ability to transform a small stone into a flying meteor, it was now clear to him that just like the physical world outside of his village was endlessly larger than he had initially realized, so the world of magic was more boundless than he could ever have imagined possible. Presently, Mandigo heard Greta say a few words in Ferul. Out lachain thadara. Drekul, down visil Bellatrix. Ich aun. Show us the threat, spirits of fog. What is the evil thing pursuing Bellatrix and us? After saying those words, Greta let the tip of a cane pass through the rising steam from a pot. As a result, the column of steam was momentarily cut in two. The cloud of damp above the cane hovered in the middle of the air and waved like a white curtain in a gentle breeze. The steam under the cane, on the other hand, was divided into two equally large currents that rose along the sides of the steam that hung in the air. When the rising currents of steam met above the first cloud of steam, they merged together once more, creating a fog-like frame about the cloud of steam in the middle that, in the next moment, glowed in a dim mother-of-pearl gleam. Unable to compose his curiosity any longer, Mandigo crawled quietly down from Greta's bed and crept up so that he almost stood right behind her, where he could follow what she was doing. He gasped. The glowing cloud of steam had become a fog-like mirror or window through which he could see fleeting pictures of flocks of Sherlocks that with great speed flew across a vast forest-covered landscape. At first, the landscape looked much like what surrounded Mandigo's village, Oak Hill. But soon the forest-covered hills and marshlands were replaced with mountains and ravines with gushing streams. The Sherlocks dashed into a cleft with steep angles, and shortly afterwards a gloomy castle emerged before them. They all headed right towards the castle's tallest tower and started encircling around it like flies around a piece of rotten meat. Without warning, the flock of Sherlocks vanished, and a hideous demonic face jumped out from the steam and snapped after Greta and Mandigo. Mandigo fell over backwards with a shriek, and even Greta got a shock and staggered backwards. The demonic face disappeared just as abruptly as it had appeared, and the steam mirror dissolved. The pot simmered down. The fire died as though a huge moth had blown it out, and the cottage was enveloped in darkness.